Samsung just set a new benchmark for foldables with the Galaxy Z Fold8, and at $1,899, it's positioned as the most mainstream-friendly big-screen phone Samsung has made so far. It comes with a 5.5-inch cover display, a 7.6-inch inner screen, and a wider, more practical shape than older Fold models. There's even talk of a higher-tier Galaxy Z Fold8 Ultra around $2,099. On paper, that looks like a problem for anyone trying to enter the foldable space late, but if the current leaks and analyst chatter are even close to accurate, Apple's first foldable iPhone could still arrive and instantly feel like the more complete product for a lot of people, especially those already living inside the Apple ecosystem. And it may outclass the Galaxy Z Fold8 in 5 specific ways that matter in real daily use, not just spec sheets. The first advantage is software, and it's a big one. iPad-style app behavior. When the device is unfolded, the most common complaint about Android foldables isn't the screens or the hinge. Anymore, it's the uneven app experience. Some apps scale beautifully, others stretch awkwardly, and too many still behave like a phone app blown up to tablet size. If Apple really does ship its foldable iPhone with layouts that feel closer to iPad true side-by-side multitasking, better large-screen UI rules, and predictable behavior when you open and close the device, then Apple is basically bringing a mature tablet experience into a pocketable form that matters. Because Apple already has a massive library of iPad-optimized apps and a design culture built around large-screen experiences. If Apple can take what works on iPad and translate it cleanly to a foldable iPhone, the inner screen becomes more than a bigger view. It becomes a different mode that's actually meant for productivity, 2 apps at once. Cleaner layouts, less wasted space, and fewer moments where you think, this app clearly wasn't built for this screen. The second advantage is Apple's full-stack control chip, operating system, and core apps, all designed under one roof. Foldables live and die on transitions, moving from the outer display to the inner display, keeping app state intact, maintaining smooth animations, and making the whole experience feel like one device instead of 2 screens glued together. Apple's track record here is exactly why people are excited. When Apple controls the silicon and the software together, it can tune performance, power efficiency, and UI behavior with a level of precision that's hard to replicate in a multi-partner ecosystem. Samsung's hardware is excellent, but it still has to balance Android's baseline behaviors, Google services, Samsung's own interface layer, and third-party app developers who may or may not optimize quickly. Apple can design the foldable experience at the OS level so the outer-to-inner handoff feels natural, predictable, and polished, especially in Apple's own apps like Messages, Safari, Photos, Notes, FaceTime, and Mail. If the foldable iPhone nails that it just flows feeling, it can make even a strong competitor like the Galaxy Z Fold8 feel a little more mechanical by comparison. The third advantage could be the most surprising AI, and specifically the idea that Apple may let users choose which AI model powers key experiences. The leaks point to an extension-style system in iOS 27 that could allow Siri and System Tools writing features, creative image tools, and more to plug into different providers such as ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini. If that happens, Apple isn't just adding AI features. It's creating a flexible AI layer where the phone becomes the hub and you choose the brain. That flexibility can be a real selling point. Different AI models have different strengths. Some are better at writing and summarizing, some at reasoning, some at coding, some at creative output. A system that lets you switch providers is both a power user win and a future-proofing win. Because the best model today might not be the best model 6 months from now. You're not locked into one partner's pace of innovation. Samsung, meanwhile, is leaning heavily on a deep Gemini partnership, more automation across apps, more pre-installed AI tools, and even bundled subscription perks in some packages. That's a strong play, but it also means the experience is more tied to one primary ecosystem. If Apple's approach really becomes pick the model you trust, that could be a major differentiator for buyers who care about AI quality, privacy preferences, or simply want options. The fourth advantage is commercial and psychological. Apple doesn't have to sell a Switch. Apple only has to sell an upgrade. This is one of the most underrated reasons the foldable iPhone could dominate attention the moment it's announced. Samsung foldables often require a platform change for iPhone owners. And that's still a huge barrier, because the Apple ecosystem is sticky. FaceTime, AirDrop, Apple Watch integration, iCloud Sync, photos, libraries, shared notes, family subscriptions. The list never ends. Apple can pitch a foldable iPhone as your iPhone, but it opens. Same apps, same accounts, same accessories, ecosystem mindset, same habits, just a new form factor. That's a much easier yes for someone already holding an iPhone Pro and looking for the next big upgrade. Even if the foldable iPhone is expensive, the story is simple. It's not a new category you're learning. It's the ultimate version of what you already use every day. The fifth advantage is the one people argue about, but history says it matters. Apple is entering late, and late can be powerful. Samsung has been building foldables since 2019, and each generation has improved hinges, coatings, crease visibility, and long-term reliability. The early problems were very public, and the lessons were expensive. Apple gets to study years of real-world failures and refinements across the entire foldable industry, then launch a version that aims to feel finished on day one. Apple's strategy has often been to avoid being first and instead become the default. If Apple's foldable iPhone arrives with a hinge that feels more refined, a display approach that reduces crease annoyance, and software that feels made for the form factor rather than adapted to it, the device could immediately feel like the mainstream-ready foldable, especially to people who've been curious but hesitant. Now, all of that sounds like Apple is set up to win. But there's one reality that could undercut every advantage: price. The most common rumors place Apple's foldable iPhone somewhere between $2,000 and $2,500. If Apple lands near the top of that range, it's no longer just competing with the Galaxy Z Fold8 at $1,899 each, asking buyers to spend substantially more, even compared with Samsung's higher-end models. And foldables are still a premium niche, even after multiple generations and major engineering improvements. Foldables remain a small slice of overall smartphone sales in many markets. People love the idea, but the practical questions still show up. How often will you really multitask? How much of the inner screen gets eaten by the keyboard? Will you accept extra thickness and weight? And are you comfortable paying laptop money for a phone? That's why Apple's biggest job won't be just launching a foldable iPhone, it will be justifying it. Apple will have to make the inner display feel essential, not optional. It will have to make the software experience so fluid that it feels like a new tier of iPhone, not a gimmick. And if Apple does push the price beyond $2,000, it will need to deliver on durability, battery life, camera quality, and real productivity features to make that cost feel rational. So if you're looking at the Galaxy Z Fold8 and wondering whether Apple can really walk into this space and compete, the answer is yes, because Apple's potential advantages aren't just about the hinge or the panel. They're about iPad-level app maturity on a foldable, total hardware-software integration, a more flexible AI strategy, an effortless upgrade path for existing iPhone users, and the benefit of entering a category after years of industry learning. But if the foldable iPhone launch is too expensive, even Apple's polish may not be enough to pull foldables out of the niche. The real battle won't be Apple versus Samsung on specs, it'll be whether Apple can make a foldable feel like the next obvious iPhone for millions of people, not just a luxury curiosity for a small group of enthusiasts.